So the world's first bulletproof park may soon become a reality in South Africa. Anti-crime NGO Gun Free SA has put forward a proposal to develop the world's first bulletproof park in Mitchell's Plain, a community that is heavily impacted by gang violence. The latest crime statistics reveal that the Western Cape recorded 80% of the gang-related murders across the country. The organization says the park aims to provide a safe and secure play area for children amidst the ongoing threat of gunfire. But let's find out more about the proposal, and for that we're joined by Gun Free South Africa's director, Adele, Kirsten. We also are joined by Lynn Phillips, who is a resident at Mitchell's Plain and also secretary of the Cape Flats Safety Forum. Ladies, a good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Adele, I'm going to let you have the first take here. I mean, essentially Gun Free South Africa wanting to develop this bulletproof park. Talk to us about why this came about and how you came to developing the concept.
Good morning, Naledi. Well, as you said in your introduction, the real purpose of the park is to keep children safe while they play, to keep them safe from the flying bullets. We know that children, those 12 years and under, are at high risk for being caught in the crossfire. And right now we have a gun violence epidemic in this country. 34 people are shot and killed every single day. And places like Mitchell's Plain, Atlantis, Hanover Park, communities in the Western Cape are experiencing unprecedented levels of gun-related violence. And it seems that very few people, and certainly our government, is not responding to the situation. We are not talking about solutions to stop this gun violence, to get guns off our streets. That's really, where we need to be going. So the idea behind the park is to say, how do we protect our children? And is this the best possible solution?
Yeah. Lynn, let me bring you in here because perhaps what we need to be doing, and Adele talks about how there's little being done to stop or prevent gun violence or prevent children being caught in the crossfire. Your thinking when you heard of this concept of building a bulletproof playground or park in Mitchell's Plain, I mean, and we'll put on the screen some of the images of really projections of what this park could look like, but it's got a sort of glass sort of surrounding that is essentially bulletproof, and we're talking about, there you go, and we'll get into this a little bit as well, but bulletproof vests made available for children. Lynn, what were your thoughts when you saw the concept?
Good morning to you, Naledi, and good morning to your viewers. From our perspective, living this on a daily basis, we welcome the notion of a bulletproof park, but there is still a lot of questions around it. We do understand that communities and government has a complete role to play in order to eradicate the gun violence because most of our children are caught in the crossfire. So we have a lot of challenges with regards to that. Until there is a multifaceted approach in dealing with the socio-economic challenges in our communities, I am of the opinion that the bulletproof park will be some sort of solution, but we still have the challenges. The challenges, though, that we would face is the fact that the children need to walk to the bulletproof park. It can only accommodate X amount of children. They still need to have to move home. They still need to go to school. So they will still be in the crossfire. So for us, there is a range of activities that needs to happen before we can really have the bulletproof park. I think for us, it's a catalyst to start a conversation with the community, a dialogue, because I'm of the opinion that communities have solutions to the problem. So we need to have that dialogue in order to ensure that all the role players play that critical role in eradicating gun violence, which means that guns needs to be seized and destroyed. But there is a whole range of activities that needs to happen before all the bulletproof park can be erected. It is a brilliant idea. Let me not say it's not. It's a brilliant idea because most of our children need to be kids. They want to play. They want to explore. And that is the reason why we welcome the notion of it, but we first need to see that all the other angles are covered in relation to this.
I hear this and I think it's a desperate situation, Adele, when we're starting to talk about putting bulletproof vests on children. I mean, and we'll put those images up again, but describe as well what we're looking at. Essentially, we're looking at bulletproof vests that have been adapted to school bags, and children need, being able to put their little belongings in little pockets of bulletproof vests. That, for me, is harrowing. The idea of parents needing to put their children in bulletproof vests, Adele.
No, lady, it's an outrageous idea. And as we would do with the concept of the park, and then exactly what Lynn was saying, well, kids aren't protected. It's a limited idea. It's an outrageous idea. But it's 24 children protected a limited period of time in a confined space. What happens when they walk from school, when they go to the spaza shop? And so that's then where the idea of the bulletproof vest came up. And I think it's important to say this is not something we necessarily want to be doing or see as a solution, but there's this desperation of no one is tackling some of the root causes, as Lynn mentioned. And so we're thinking, is this the best possible way to protect the children? I mean, you'll see from some of the features, on one hand, I mean, it's got fantastic slides and jungle gyms, panic button. It's got a whole range of other features. And those features, I think, were really developed and inspired by the vision of the kind of society we would want to see. So, for example, the panic button would be symbolic also of saying something like, when a crime happens, the cops need to be there straight away on the scene, catching the perpetrator, and the perpetrator is arrested, is prosecuted. And as important, and we're talking specifically about gun-related crime, is that the gun is recovered, because we know in so many moves out of the hand of the criminal into someone else committed. So the guns have to be recovered. So
Okay, Adele, I'm going to step in there just because your line
of the park is to...
Yeah, your line is a bit choppy. Apologies for that, Adele. But I think we've really gotten the gist of it, so don't leave us as yet, because I'm going to keep pushing forward with the discussion nonetheless. I'm just stepping in because it is a bit choppy. Lynn, I'm going to bring you in here. Okay, so this is what Gun Free South Africa has proposed. The park, in and of itself, as we've been showing a little bit earlier on, will be encased with level 8 bulletproof glass, right? This is the highest grade of bulletproof glass. It will cost something approximately around 10 million rand to build for the community of Mitchell's Plain. And one of the questions I asked myself then when I saw this was, are we then as a community not afraid that gangsters would then use this park themselves to shield themselves from rivals? Is that a concern, Lynn? I think your mic is off, Lynn. Yes, all good. Yes, go ahead.
The concern that we're having, we find out in Mitchell's Plain and across the Cape Flats, the extortion that is going to happen and the fear that we're still having. Might this not be a trigger for extortion from these very same gangs? Because it's in areas where these things are happening. So for us, we really need to have a complete dialogue with communities, because for me it is something that would assist in the current situation that we are having. But taking into account we don't have that amount of money to build these parks. And obviously if we build it in one area, there's going to be a request from all areas. And we have, you see, it's the spatial planning, the apartheid spatial planning that has driven us, that has created this monster that we are having today. Because we were all just dumped in communities on the Cape Flats. The density of our population in a demarcated area is also the cause of all this current situation of violence and criminality, because people are fighting for space. And even in the house, you will find that because we have this is where children can play safe, those open spaces. In order, that's the battlefield, and it is about greed, it's about money, and this is the situation that we have, and that is why there is a continuous gang violence, because guns are traveling from one hand to the other at a cost. You understand? So we really need a multifaceted approach with this thing of gun violence in communities, and this will be saving the life. But then I'm going to ask, I've got a grandchild. In my household, I'm also not safe. Can't I have this in my household? You understand? So there's going to be a lot of discussions that needs to happen regarding this, because people would want to have this. I can tell you, I can guarantee you there is people that would want to have this even in their own house, because you're not even safe in your own house. A bullet goes through your window. We had situations where people were killed by a bullet through the door. In their own household. So there's a lot of challenges that needs to be addressed, and we really need to say to government, we need to stem out the corruption of those that are supposed to serve and protect us. That is the first thing if we want to implement this. The second thing, because we have solutions, the second thing is that all those legal gun owners have to have a safe that is locked, and nobody should have that key. They need to do an assessment to verify if that legal gun owner still have his gun, and if it is still on a safe space. Because that is what we also picked up, that children steal their parents' guns, they play with it, and then accidentally trigger, and then somebody dies. Yeah. Then the other thing is our gun shops that are selling guns. There need to be a thorough analysis of via those in power to ensure that those guns that they have in their shop, there is certificates for it, it's legal, because that is where all these things are coming from. Your security companies, your taxi associations, they have guns. We need to determine if it's legal guns.
Okay. So this is what I want to do, because I think that if you perhaps don't live in the communities that we're talking about, particularly in the Western Cape, you may not understand just how dire the situation is. Just last year, there was a 6-year-old, Zachariah Noble, who was shot in the chest in Hanover Park. He was playing outside, shot in the chest. So being a parent, a sibling, imagine a 6-year-old shot in the chest by a stray bullet. In February this year, a 12-year-old learner from Mitchell's Plain, her name Ferdoza Kleinschmidt, was also shot in the eye by a stray bullet. In the eye, a 12-year-old little girl. This is how frightening and tragic some of these stories are. But is a Bulletproof Park the way to deal with it? Adele, who needs to be assisting? I mean, have you spoken to the City of Cape Town authorities? I know that one thing you've said in your release as well is that this is apolitical and that you're not speaking to political parties.
No, lady, so I think two things. The one is the next step, and we're busy putting in place those meetings, is really to engage with a variety of community leaders in Mitchell's Plain and in fact across the Cape Flats. So we partner with Cape Flats Safety Forum, and they have a reach across the Cape Flats. They're setting up a whole lot of meetings. There's a lot of discussion actually happening on social media and the WhatsApp group. So the next step is very much to consult more thoroughly with community leaders. And I think is to look at the proposal, but really to open the discussion to how are we going to work together to keep our children safe, and that then hopefully ripples out to keep all of us safe. So that's a very important next step, and that can include things like the CPFs, the police, and local government is critical. Right. In terms of political parties, I mean, we are an NGO, we are independent politically, we work across political parties. And I guess this is an opportunity which we hadn't thought of, but you're asking the question, is we're in an election year. We've got the election in the next 6 weeks. This is an opportunity for all of us to be asking the party that we may be thinking of voting for is, what is your policy on gun control?
Okay.
Do you have specific policies on protecting children and women from gun-related violence? That could be a really interesting discussion and something that maybe Newzroom Afrika could also look at taking up.
Yeah, asking our political parties to campaign for saving our children's lives. Let's leave it there. Thank you so much for speaking to us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll be watching this project very, very closely, of course. Adele, Kirsten there is the Director for Gun Free South Africa, also joined by Lynn Phillips, who is Mitchell's Plain resident, and also the Secretary of the Cape Flats Safety Forum, speaking to us about building a bulletproof park for children in Mitchell's Plain.